I think Terry Francona, he had the benefit of managing in Philadelphia and growing up in the east and northeast, and Phillies country, Pirates country, whatever. But he had that. His dad was a baseball lifer. He was a baseball lifer, so he was around it. He understood the importance, and he appreciated how important baseball was here. And he figured it out right away. He was ready. He had managed before. He had coached everywhere. He had been in ball. He had played here in the ballpark. So you can't really prepare for what this is going to be like. And he had a monster payroll and talented roster. But, when Grady screwed up the 0-3 playoff game, Tito was at a function, and someone said to him, "Hey, Grady Little just blew the playoffs for the Red Sox. Might be an opening there." He goes, "They're not going to fire a guy over one thing like that." Well, he knew later that was a dumb thing to say, because of course they did. And you can't have that happen here. And 8 years, sellout for every game, 5 playoffs, average 93 wins, brush fires every day, a lot of media obligations, and he was the master at it, and really good. I remember when we didn't have a great run as manager, writer, because I'm a wise ass, and I was always looking for stuff, and there was a lot of stuff, there were a lot of brush fires. So and he was always covering for players, so I'd call him on that. He'd take me to the woodshed once or twice a year, and tell me why. His favorite thing was, I'd say, "Tito, it's just my opinion." And he would say, "Well, not having information has not influenced your opinion at all, has it?" That was like his thing. You need the information. I have it, you don't. He was right. But I could tell he didn't harbor things. He didn't hold it. And so when he got fired in 11, epic collapse, and it was time. And my agent was really good, David Black in New York, who had done the Joe Torre, Tom Verducci book, The Yankee Years. He says, "You should do that book with Francona." I'm like, "Yeah, but he hates me, So, no. He says, "I did the book with Torre and Verducci. We could do this again. This is great. This would be hot." He says, "Send him an email." So I email him, "Tito, sorry you got fired. Want to do a book?" "No, and not with you." And and we go from there. But as soon as we connected, and when the Sox kind of did him dirty, he decided he kind of liked the idea of using me as an author to be the voice to say the bad stuff, and then he could just be the hero. So it was a magical partnership. To the point, I've got these books here. I don't even have to take a book out of my shelf to tell you what he wrote in the acknowledgments. Usually the acknowledgments, thank my coach, my family, my kids, all this, and he does all that. And he says, "If you had told me a year ago that I would be doing a book with Dan Shaughnessy, I would tell you that will happen when a 200-pound hog jumps out of my ass." I'm like, "Can we put that in the acknowledgments of the book?" It's there. I mean, who makes that an acknowledgment in a book? But he did, and it was right. And we made #2 New York Times bestseller with that thing. Tom Werner kept saying, "It's fiction." Well, it's on the nonfiction list of the New York Times. That's all I know. So the process of that book was actually pretty fun. It was the year he didn't manage, which was magical for both of us. He had more time at his hands, and he was a little less guarded about offending players, things like that. And he had this unusual intellectual curiosity. So we're with the editors, they bring in, Houghton Mifflin bought the book, and they bring in the sales guys and the marketing guys and the PR guys and editors, this and that. And the woman who had bought the book, Susan Canavan, does all these great books around here. She's sitting next to him, and he's going around the table. He's really curious. "What's your job? What's your job?" So he gets to Susan. "So what's your job?" And she says, "Well, technically I am the editor of the adult division at Houghton Mifflin." And he says, "Adult? Is that like porn?" It's like, "No, it's not like porn." He knew he was being playful, but it was funny nonetheless. This was an amazing story. Great athletes generally, or people who are really celebrities, they don't really think of the little people, so to speak. Terry Francona, he is the little people. He does think, he never leaves his mind. So when we sold that book, the editor, David Black in New York, big shot, he has Mitch Albom, he has real writers. So he did this book auction, and the book was hot. We go into 5 different houses: Doubleday, HarperCollins, Ballantine, Hachette, and it's like a frenzy. It was one-day auction. We go in, they bring in all the marketing geeks, they do the pitch, they ask questions, then we leave and go to the next house, and the bids are coming in on his phone. "Here's what we'll pay for this book," because it was a hot thing. And the Verducci book with Joe Torre had done so well. So we're walking around New York, and then we get to this place, and I don't know which house it was, and they would say, you got a Manny Ramirez story? Oh, Manny Ramirez. He says, yeah, it's World Series. It's Game 4, 2004. We're going to win the World Series. First time 86 years. We got him. We got a 3-0 lead early on, and we're going to win the World Series. It's a big thing. Middle of the game, Manny's up, and he gets into it with their catcher, who's a rookie. It's Yadi Molina. And the umpire, he knew the guy's name, he says, Tito, get out here. I don't know what they're saying, but it's not good. Make it stop. So I go out, and I said to Manny, what's this about? And Manny points at Yadi, the catcher. He says, I'm stealing signs. And I look at the umpire. I said, Manny doesn't even know our signs. He says, how could he be stealing their signs? And you would see the dollar signs lighting up in the marketing geeks and all this when he would tell these stories. He just had a Manny story in his pocket. It's a great Manny story. So yeah, it became, and then I would have to catch up with him during the course of the year in New York or whatever. He says, yeah, I'll drive, find a place on the Pike. So I find the Charlton rest stop on the Mass Turnpike. And I drive to the Charlton rest stop. And I'm setting up at McDonald's, and it's like, and fans are coming up to me to start bitching about the Red Sox because it's a bad time. And I'm getting my questions and my tape recorder. I'm like, this isn't going to be real private when Tito shows up here. So I call him. I said, yeah, we may have to do this in your car because it's not very private here. And I'll look around. He goes, look, we're already 2 guys at a rest stop for 2 hours. I'm not going to be in my car for 2 hours, he says. I said, okay, I hear you. And I did. I found a boardroom, But he would just, he would find these things. He's just funny. And so I really got to enjoy that. And then in the process, I was getting to the story about his compassion for regular people, which he really has. Ask the clubhouse guys at Fenway, it's the same guys are there. He would send them to Mohegan Sun. Here's my credit card, just go have fun. Always take them to all-star games and stuff like that. Really, the clubbies, he loved the clubbies because he's in the clubhouse so much. But in our case, all those bids came in for the book, and there was a lot of money, which was great. And we didn't take the highest bid because we liked the Houghton Mifflin people. And he told the agent who had brokered the thing, he says, so we're going to take that Houghton Mifflin, and that other house offered us more money. And when you tell the house that offered the most money, he says, put that on me because you're going to have to deal with them again. And I don't. So just say that was all me. But who thinks of that? You're thinking of someone else who has a job and what their future is in this industry. You're just going to be in it for one book and move on. But I can tell you, no celebrity, no famous athlete, no one thinks like that. It was a very unique deal, and just says a lot about who Terry Francona is. I think Francona had a HIPAA violation in his pocket. I mean, that was, there's talk about his Percocet abuse, and he was in the Major League Drug Program, and that's supposed to be really private and careful, and somebody leaked it, and that became a real issue all around. And he never asked me, who that was, and I don't know if he didn't know that I knew or it was just too respectful to put me on the spot like that, because I wasn't going to tell him anyway. But it was a point of a lot of contention, because when that, John Henry did not yet own the Boston Globe when I contracted to do that book. And Marty Barron found a loophole where I could do the book because Tito wasn't a manager anymore. And we did the book in the year before John bought the Globe. And when John bought the Globe, I'm like, oh boy, I have these files, all this like embedded stuff about the inner workings of the Red Sox that they don't want me to have because it's bad. And then now John owns my paper. I called IT. I said, "Can you guys get down here?" It was like the first scene of Argo where they're boarding up the doors and shredding documents and breaking the hard drives. That was me in my office at the Globe when John Henry bought the Globe. I didn't want him to get that stuff. So yeah, the whole thing was just. I've written 13 books. It was by far the most delightful experience that I had working with him, and just funny. There was a scene in there where he didn't want to offend like he'd make jokes about J.D. Drew or Ellsbury like that, and he told me they hit 4 homers in 1 inning. It was Veritek, and it was against the Yanks on a Sunday night baseball game. And JD hit the second or third one, and I think Veritek hit the fourth one. And he says, by the time Jason got in the dugout and was congratulated the fourth one, JD was in a back tunnel on his laptop picking out some furniture for his new apartment. You know, it was like he was just had these things. They didn't all make the book. One that did was he developed this Jeter love, like everybody, because Jeter had been an all-star shortstop, of course, and Tito managed the all-star team in 2005, 2008. I think it was 2008. It was that long game in New York, I think. And Jeter stayed. You know, like the starters, they get pulled out. They screw. They leave. And Jeter stayed in the dugout and rooted on his teammates. And it went like a million innings and the whole thing. And that just, this respect developed. And so when Jeter would come up to the plate during the last few years, he'd step back and acknowledge Tito in the dugout. And Tito, you know, get back to his thing. They'd have this little moment that no one noticed. But A-Rod noticed, and he batted after Jeter. So he'd come up and start trying to, and Tito's like, I'd keep my head down, like going like this. He didn't want to get into it. And I had to fight him to keep that in the book because of his wanting to be good with everybody after the thing that was still in baseball. And I won that fight. It got in, and the book came out in February of 2013, and we're in a limo doing the car wash going up to Secaucus or somewhere for baseball tonight or whatever. And he goes, fuck, A-Rod already read this. He's pissed. It's like he's looking at his phone. He's already reacted to it. It was such a great A-Rod moment, but yeah, a great Tito moment because he knows what's funny. So when you think about how baseball is going to remember Terry Francona, I mean, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. And they want you to wait 5 years till you're done, so who knows? Because he could die in the dugout on a road trip, you know, I mean, when he's 90 years old, because he just loves baseball, and we've seen him leave it and come back to it. So, but he'll be in the Hall of Fame, and he's just a beloved guy. And, you know, he would, like Carl Crawford had tortured the Red Sox when he played for the Rays. And then, of course, came to Boston, and it was a disaster. And his takeaway, he wouldn't let this one in the book either, was when he played against us, we hated him. When he played for us, we hated him. Who else does that?